All right, what's up? Welcome back to Go Big Orange Friday. You're not going to believe this, folks, but we take this on a Friday afternoon here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Ethan Stone moved locations. I don't know what I'm staring at behind me. Like, he gets a new job, and he's just like, it's time for me to really pivot to video and really deck out the studio. Because you got some Tennessee stuff, you got the American flag, you got, like, bottle caps. I want to say a lot's going on, man.
My whole room around. My whole room is completely different than it was a week ago. but yeah,
hold on.
Much otherwise.
Did you do this in a week?
Yes. It was already over there. I just moved my desk different locations.
Okay, I was gonna say I thought you set all of this up behind you in a week.
No,
and
I was
like,
working like a dog moving this stuff.
There you go. Ryan, not working like a dog. He's in a blank space behind him. Who knows? It looks like a prison cell, summer camp in the middle of nowhere.
Barren wall. Remains. No upgrades over on this end.
Are you a sticker guy, or do you decorate your room at all?
I got a Titans flag in here. That's really about it.
That's all he needs.
Yeah. I got a sticker on my closet door, Schumpert County Executive, from when my granddad ran for and was county executive. So I think those are the two decorations I have.
People forget I got engaged at your grandfather's namesake.
Mm-hmm. We should be collecting a tax. The Schumpert family should be collecting a tax for all engagements that take place at that park.
I wonder how many do. Do you think a lot do?
I have no idea. Beats me.
I hope I'm the only one. That's what I want to believe. Is I'm gonna go under the circumstance that I'm the only one, because you have to bring the dog involved. It's a dog park, generally speaking. Yeah. So a lot of people may not want the dog involved in the engagement process. I don't know. I want to believe. Circle back and let me know. Do some digging.
I'll do some research.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
Okay, I'll find the records.
And Ryan can just move out. Like, he's in and out. He can live wherever. He has like 7 things, and you didn't even know he was there. You buy your clothes in bulk. You're very efficient. You're like, I need 9 colors of these t-shirts, and then I'm good for a year and a half, and then I'm gonna keep moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of targeting, but not overall inaccurate either. So
it's not targeting. It's just we are who we are. I feel like I got a pretty good read on you. I think that's
I mean, that's pretty good. There's a lot of books and assortments on my desk. That would be the biggest issue from the whole picking up and moving scenario that you put on. It's a madhouse. I have to clear space just to work over there.
I mean, as someone who moved from Atlanta to Knoxville and drove an astronomical amount of books to my place, moving books is the worst part of moving, because they're sneaky heavy, and you gotta just pack them all up, and you gotta move them. If you don't hire movers, like, I'll never do that again. I will never move without movers ever again, because I'm not dealing with the books. Like, I'm not dealing with a lot of it's just, I'm too old. I am too old, not doing it. It's just not gonna happen. I don't care. I'm paying the money. I'm not gonna go cheap with that. But there you go. Guys, we have some Tennessee to talk about. We're taping this a couple hours before Tennessee faces off against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish this weekend. Did you hear about this? Did you see this? Tennessee put Notre Dame. This is happening this weekend. But first, I wanted to talk some basketball. So, neutral site game in Brooklyn. Another one of these against Maryland. It looks like this is probably it for the non-conference slate for Tennessee basketball. Obviously, we would like to have something like we had with Arizona this past year at home. Recruits like it, fans like it. But Maryland, neutral site, Kevin Willard now in the fold in Maryland. What did you make of Maryland being added to the non-conference slate in that tournament, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was an interesting move. Like you said, you kind of felt like there was one more game they were going to add, at least if it's still the SEC Big 12 Challenge. I don't know their opponent for that, but they'll obviously play in that. And they were one game away before Maryland having the same kind of number of premier non-conference games as they did last year. And it didn't do a ton to surprise me or jump out the page at me, I guess, really either. Maryland, obviously a little bit down right now, first-year head coach, as you said, but another chance for Tennessee to go up and play in New York City. I don't know if that had any impact on it over the fact that, I mean, Barnes has talked about in the past, he likes to take these guys to different places to play non-conference games just for the experience of it. They're college kids. They haven't been to all these places. But at the same time, Tennessee signs Zakai Ziegler out of New York. Toby Awaka, they just signed or have committed out of New York as well. So I don't know if there's an additional conscientious effort to go play a game up near their families or just to try to continue to recruit New York City. But Maryland probably not a game like Gonzaga, and not a game like Arizona on the schedule where you're like, wow, this is a premier. You can't miss this type of matchup. But a good game, another game that'll add to the non-conference schedule, and like you said, rounds out another pretty solid non-conference slate that Tennessee has this year.
Do we have Memphis on the schedule or no?
No.
That should be a guaranteed makeup for those fans for what happened last spring or winter, whenever. God, I was in Nashville for that, and I was sick as a dog, and that was like all I had to hold on to was just being like, I'm going to get some ginger tea and go to this bar and watch Tennessee, Memphis. I'm going to drag myself, and that will cheer. And then, of course, it's just not what happened. But we don't have to relitigate that, what happened to those good folks in Nashville. Ethan, what do you make about Justin Powell moving on to Wazzu? It looks like he's going to have to sit out because he's not a grad transfer. It's like we just are conditioned to everyone not having to sit out and being able to move multiple times and getting waivers and stuff like that. But ultimately, because he's in this unique situation now where he is not graduated and he's already used the transfer portal once, it seems like he's going to have to sit out, but we kind of assumed that he was going to go overseas or do something else because he was probably going to have to sit out if he stayed in the States. What do you make of Powell in Coug country?
Yeah, him going to a Power 6 kind of surprised me, kind of like you just said. But it's a good landing spot for him if he can get the waiver for it. That's what he's probably going to do. He's going to apply and see if maybe he can appeal that and play this year. I doubt it. I don't see much of a way that'll happen. He'll get that passed. But it is technically feasible that he could do that. It's a good landing spot for him. They got 3 of their top dudes leaving, and obviously, like we said, that won't matter this season. But, there theoretically would be open spots if that's his plan, is to try and play this season. If not, it's still a pretty decent place for him. It's better than going to, I don't know, just off the top of my head, Southern Utah, place like that, a little small school. It's a legitimate program that he could maybe hone his skills and I guess keep fighting for his goal.
Yeah. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was necessarily shocking. I mean, that's kind of the level. When you take out the eligibility stuff, which, like you said, you would think you wouldn't be eligible. People get eligibility so easily. I'm just writing it. I'm not even saying it definitively. Just he's already used his immediate eligibility. So, I mean, we'll see what happens there. But outside of that, I think that's the level of school that makes a lot of sense for him to go to. It's still a Power 5, but that's a place that he should be able to come in and be a starter or at least make a big impact immediately, have a lot of minutes guaranteed. So it'll be interesting to see. One thing that I didn't really know until doing some research on it is that Washington State under Kyle Smith is they haven't made an NCAA tournament, but they've steadily gotten a lot better every year. I think they've last year was the best record they had in over 20 years or something like that. So like Ian said, they lose some of their main guys, and as we know, progress isn't always linear, but certainly seems like a program that, one, can provide them the ability to play in a lot of minutes, and 2, does seem to be turning in the right direction.
Well, it's definitely one of those places. It's a money ball type approach. Kyle Smith, I think he came up from San Francisco, if I remember correctly, and kind of made his bones on just 3-and-D. Like, we're only shooting threes, we're only getting fouled, yep. And Powell seems like a better fit for that kind of scheme than what Barnes needed. And it's defense first approach in Knoxville, and it's just, I think guys like Powell, it's just going to be hard when you can't defend and when Barnes doesn't trust you on the defensive side of the ball. It's just always going to be a problem there, I think, potentially. Aiden Holloway, what do we think? It seems like he's probably a lock for this 2023 class, Ryan.
Yeah, I don't know about a lock, but certainly a guy they're going after really strong and have been for a while. I mean, that's been a name that's been pretty prominent in the Tennessee recruiting since they started recruiting this class. Just right over there in North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the same school Fulkerson played at, private school Fulkerson played at. Probably shouldn't have said that because I don't know that 100% for sure. But I think there's some sort of Tennessee tie to that school, and it sounds like Tennessee is going to be able to get him on campus again, and they've probably had him on campus more than any other school has. So it's a big-time recruitment, a big-time prospect that a lot of good schools are in on, but certainly one that Tennessee has been in on him from the jump. There's a lot of familiarity there between the coaches and Holloway, and would be a huge get. I mean, They have Cade Phillips inside. We talked about that. I don't know if that was last show or 2 shows ago. A really good get. And then Justin Edwards is obviously the coup and the class are going after, and that seems to be a major Tennessee-Kentucky battle. You all of a sudden have a top 40 point guard to go along with a really good big man commit and a chance to get a top 10 wing. And that right there, you have an elite class. Pretty, at least it seems like both Edwards and Holloway are already pretty deep into their recruitments.
Yeah, we shall see. I'm excited. It looks like it. I think Rick Barnes is not slowing down on the recruiting front. I think they're going to be fine. I think Aiden talked about Gainey being a big guy for him in his recruitment. So I think he's someone to watch just recruiting going forward. It seems like he's got a good vibe with a lot of these kids. So that's good to know. In terms of football, Carnell Tate, it looks like he's going to commit next week. I was listening to Austin Price in the VolQuest mailbag, and he said he was still leaning Carnell to Tennessee, and that I thought this was interesting, is that if it wasn't Tennessee, he would not commit in June, like the 2nd and 3rd week of June, I want to say. And if it drags out, it's probably somebody else. And I don't know, like I've been kind of cooling off on this the last couple of weeks and just reading different sites and different perspectives on it, that like, man, it's just going to be hard for him to say. I mean, obviously Ohio State's a lot closer in Chicago for his family and stuff like that, but it's also, man, you can make like Jameson, who started off at Ohio State. You have Garrett Olave, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. You just have dude after dude after dude who Ohio State, like if you go play as a 5-star at Ohio State, you're probably going to go in the first round. Like that's just kind of where they're at. So for Tennessee, like it would be a gigantic win to me if they're able to pull him away from a guaranteed first round pick option in Columbus, because I understand that pull. So I hope Tennessee fans aren't really upset if he ends up in Buckeye Land. And I think people might dunk of like, oh, I thought Tennessee was going to get all these 5 stars, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure there will be some pushback on that front if Carnell does not pick Tennessee over Ohio State. But I just think it's one of those things that's going to be really hard to beat Ohio State for these 5-star receivers with the Ryan Day administration. But I don't know. Ethan, do you think right now that we know it's going to happen this week, he's looking for his videographer? I don't know if he found one yet, but we'll see. And do you think Carnell Tate is a Vol this time next week?
I just want to say real fun. I think it's really funny how on Instagram he's like, yeah, I'll commit. I gotta find a videographer first,
Yeah.
and then I'll do all that. It certainly seems that way. It certainly seems that he's been leaning Tennessee for a while, and it's interesting that you brought up that point that Ohio State, you can be guaranteed to go be a wide receiver. He had a tweet a while ago, and I don't want to be reading too far into tweets, but he had one of them that was like, I can't remember exactly what it was. It was like,
you can be a first round pick anywhere, I think.
Thanks for saving me. That's exactly what it was.
Huh.
I totally blanked when it came up there, but exactly what Ryan just said. And it's very interesting that you said that as well, because that kind of clicked in my head as he said that. And just seeing all the love I feel like Carnell has given Tennessee on Twitter, on social media recently, and the fact that he's getting all these crystal balls for it, and between Tennessee and Ohio State, if those are the 2 front runners for it, I'd say right now Tennessee has the edge, especially with his perceived relationship he's found with Nico and just the other guys coming into the class and the way he's, I guess, been with them and interacted with them online. It just seems very much so that he would be leaning towards Tennessee.
Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I know. I think between that tweet and then Brian Hartline, Ohio State's receivers coach, I can't remember exactly the timeline, what the order was between those 2 tweets. He kind of had a subtweeting-ish tweet kind of about him and making sure you make the right decision. And then I saw there was a video from, I think, an Ohio State writer kind of talking about it and saying he thinks to go Tennessee and how it's all about the money. And I think I saw Carnell Tate's mom was quote tweeting that and was getting some negative reactions. So I don't know what he's going to do. I did see in an interview with 247 Sports, he said he plans on committing the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But when you just look at all those factors, it certainly feels like Tennessee is going to be the choice. But who knows? Recruiting can change by the minute. But that certainly seems to be the way things are trending as of the last couple weeks.
That is wild, though. Like, how much of is it going to be deflating, Ryan, if he doesn't? Because Casper was also the other main guy, and he obviously committed a while ago to Oregon, and not getting Casper or Carnell with this group. And it's like, well, this is a pretty stacked. Like Tennessee added a bunch of 4-stars in this past wide receiver class. We know that Heupel wants to emphasize defense and replenishing that cupboard on that side of the ball going forward. But does it change how people are seeing the momentum for Tennessee if Carnell picks Ohio State over Tennessee?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe a little bit. I don't think that Carnell Tate going to Ohio State changes the vibes or the attitude around the program. If you start missing out on all these top 100 guys, top 150 guys that they seem to be deep in, then yeah, I think it does. But just one player, I don't think it necessarily does. And to your point, it would be going to Ohio State, who is a very, very appealing for receiving prospects, and I don't think there's any shame in losing out a 5-star receiver to Ohio State.
The Vols, preseason number 10 per Athlon Sports. Ethan, do you think that's too high?
Wait, they had 10 people named to the thing? Do you think that's too high? How many people were named to it?
No. The word number 10 in Athlon Sports preseason list.
I didn't even see that. Is that true, Ryan?
I'm trusting Chase. I haven't seen that.
I didn't even see that, and me being as shocked as I am, that's why I think that I'll answer your question. Yes, I do. I do think it might be a little bit too high. That's saying something. Saying Tennessee year 2 under Heupel, because what I saw was that 10 players were named to the preseason list of Hendon Hooker.
Maybe I got it backwards.
Tillman. I think you might have, because that seems really shocking. But
yeah, there was. I didn't even have, but when you had that confusion, I was like, yeah, that's what it was. 10. There was 10 players named to the All Athlon, All SEC.
Team. There you go.
4 teams, I think it was too. Which I love how Athlon just whoever has 4 all conference teams, and they do it to milk it out and get as much eyes, I guess, on their product.
Wow.
I agree 100%.
Ryan burning bridges all the time on this podcast.
I don't know, but I respect it. It's an admirable move, and it was when you said Tennessee number 10 over on the country, that was my first thought. If Tennessee or Texas or Notre Dame or Florida, any of these huge brands, I mean, they're trying to sell magazines here. Yeah. The Tennessee fans buy magazines. Putting Tennessee higher in the rankings than they think it is, that'll sell magazines. And if 10 was actually what they had him at, I'm with Ethan. That seems high to me.
But I mean, 10 is not outrageous. Like if they go 9-3, 10 is right around that number. Like 10 is kind of where they're at. If they're the number 3 or number 4 SEC team at the end of the year, number 10, like that's if everything went right, I think, this year. But I don't think that's like if they beat Florida, if they beat Pitt, if they get an upset between, I forgot who it was, I think it was Matt Hayes on Saturday Down South, who said that Tennessee's beating either Georgia or Alabama this year. That just changes things. So you've split that series and you win the games you're supposed to be that you're favored in, which I think Tennessee will probably be favored in at least 8 games this year. I mean,
if Tennessee just beats Alabama, who they haven't beaten in 15 years, and beats the defending national champions that they haven't played within 3 touchdowns for in half a decade, then I think Tennessee's going to be a top 10 team.
We joke about it, man, but I mean, we were in the fourth quarter. Tennessee was in the Alabama game in the fourth quarter. If Bryce Young did not score on that touchdown, like if we want to relitigate that, like he's not in. Like we just moved on. Like go watch it. Like he's not in.
No, he's not. He's definitely not in. You were correct about that.
And I mean, look, that game they fought and they were in it for 3.5 quarters. They couldn't do the full 4, but they didn't have the bodies yet. So it's like if you just have a little bit more bodies, if the defense is a little bit better, I mean, I don't know. I'm not predicting on this podcast that Tennessee beats Alabama and Georgia. I am saying I think what we saw last year was enough to be like, hey, this offense is capable of beating when it gets really filled out. This entire roster is completely filled out the way Heupel wants it filled out, that they're going to be capable of beating somebody that, like the Josh Jobe not paying attention and Cedric Tillman just running by. Like that's just going to be a part of it. You can scheme for that all you want, but the tempo is outrageous, and the tempo is going to catch teams by surprise. It's going to be a problem for people. And I don't know. I just think at some point it happens, right? Like at some point Tennessee, if they keep moving in this, we just have to like move past who we are. Like no one had Texas A&M beating Alabama last year. Like Zach Calzada had the game of his life. But if you're recruiting like this and you're coaching like this and the offense is humming like it is, I don't know. I mean, they'll be in those games. Like I would be surprised if Alabama and Georgia, and especially Georgia this year, I think Tennessee will, with how much Georgia's replacing on the defensive side of the ball, expecting Stetson Bennett to be just as good as he was last year. They have a lot of questions at receiver, a lot of talent, but a lot of questions. I just would not be surprised if Bama and Georgia were still games and competitive in the fourth quarter. And if it's competitive in the fourth, college football is weird, man. Crazy things can happen. So I don't know. I would not be surprised if they're both competitive in the fourth quarter at the very least.
Yeah, I could buy in more if you flip the locations of those games, because I think
Tennessee plays better at Georgia.
I mean, maybe history says that. I'm not. I think if you ask Josh Heupel, hey, can you want to switch that Georgia game to Knoxville? He takes it in a heartbeat.
I don't know. That first play in Athens 2 years ago, punt over the head, was that a punt or just a shotgun snap?
Yeah, snap over the head.
Yeah. Well, because literally the very first play from scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's right. See, so I'm saying there's something about playing in Athens. Like there's just Georgia loses themselves a little bit when they're playing the Vols in Athens.
And you are right. Tennessee played well there in 2018, given the talent level of that team, and then obviously played well for a half in 2020 before the offensive line became stagnant, and Georgia's defensive ends ran directly past them every single play of the second half for sacks, and Jarrett Garantano got murdered.
Right.
But
George Pickens pretended to pee on a guy.
Yeah.
It was the exact moment the Jeremy Pruitt show was just like, okay, that's not going to work.
Like, I think it was just the way he was wearing his mask was just when we're like, all right, we're in over our head at that point.
Well, there's also the great George Pickens, Jeremy Pruitt play from that game, and Pickens got away with just a clear hold on a touchdown run, like 10-yard touchdown run, and Pruitt sprinting down the sideline, yelling at the ref, and George Pickens just walking up to him, clapping in his face. But no, I mean, to your point overall, you're right. I mean, the tempo, what Tennessee's offense can do under Heupel, and when you have a quarterback that can play at a really high level, which we've seen Hooker do in his first year in the system, and he elevates it, that's the great equalizer in college football. Tennessee doesn't have to have the exact talent of Alabama or Georgia to play them close or necessarily beat them. I just think the talent gap on that defensive end for Tennessee is still too big for me to buy into the Tennessee winning either of those games.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mortgage your house on it. I wouldn't do that. But if you were to tell me, I mean, I don't know. Let's get through Florida. That's my whole thing. It's like, let's just get through Florida this year, and then we'll talk about the other stuff. Because I was talking to Matt this week, and he was just like, I mean, the Florida-Tennessee rivalry is not that bad. And I was like, no, it's that bad. Like, people I don't think outside of Tennessee know that it's really, really bad now. It's I mean, in the 21st century, in y'all's lifetime, basically, it's just been a mess. It's been an absolute mess.
The first Tennessee football game, at least in Neyland, I might have gone with one at Vanderbilt. The first game in Neyland I saw was that 2004 game, which was I was 5 years old, and Tennessee's beaten Florida once since then. So yeah, I mean it's bad to your point, and it's not like Alabama where Alabama's won however many 15 games in a row now. I think that's how long Saban's been there, maybe 14, and Alabama's been about the best 2 or 3 team in the country every single one of those years besides Saban's first year.
Right.
Florida's had a lot of mediocre teams that Tennessee and games that Tennessee had won in that time frame that Tennessee didn't win. And to me, it's much, much different, and it's certainly agonizing for the Tennessee fan base.
Yeah, but hey, I think, look, let's just go in optimistic. It is June 10th. You never know. Like the vibes are all positive. But also just don't send any recruits to Knoxville the Florida weekend. That would be great. Like I don't want anyone in the building who might pull any kind of like, oh God, what just happened? I got to rethink this. I would not schedule any recruiting visits for Florida weekend at all. The vibes and just seeing the fans just demoralized potentially, and just no, I think I would stay away from that one because that would just help Florida too. I don't think you want a lot of those guys that you're competing with, Florida and Napier and his what is it, $20 million budget is he looking for? 17? What was his number?
I don't remember.
It was something high. But we'll see. Baseball coming up in 2 hours. Folks will hear this after game one. It will be not Chase Dollander. He's pitching tomorrow. We get Blade Tidwell tonight. We don't know for certain who's going to pitch Sunday. I would be surprised if it's Beam, if needed, if we have to get to that point, based on what we saw last week and just with his kind of stuff versus the other two and what we got there. I don't know. Maybe it's Camden Sewell. Maybe it's Chase Burns. You throw him back in the mix. I don't know. What are your expectations for this Notre Dame series? Because the way I look at it is like I'm less nervous about this super regional than I was last weekend. And I don't know if that's how y'all feel about this Notre Dame team, but I think we match up pretty well. This is a pretty good fit for Tennessee needing to get the College World Series from my perspective. What do you think, Ethan?
I'd say it's just such a change of pace. That's what Notre Dame, I feel like this weekend will be more than anything else, because Campbell and Georgia Tech, they kind of messed around with Tennessee a little bit, obviously both taking back-to-back 4-0 leads. Really good hitting teams. Georgia Tech, I believe, the best in the nation batting average. It was like .327. And so really good hitting teams, good power hitting teams. And Notre Dame just cannot be more of the opposite. They're a good pitching team. They've got obviously John Michael Bertrand. He's a great pitcher. He went twice, I believe, in the Statesboro Regional, and so he's probably only going to go once this weekend. I would bet he'd be their Saturday guy. Not sure if their coach has said that or not, but it's just such a change of scenery, and that's the thing I feel like that above anything else, Tennessee, I feel like out-talents Notre Dame. You know, if you meet them in the regular season, best of three, Tennessee probably wins all three. Right now, just with the change of pace, the change of scenery, it might maybe mess them up a little bit. I don't know. I'm trying to play devil's advocate because I still think Tennessee wins 2 games. I don't even think the Sunday starter question is necessary because I don't think Tennessee will need it.
Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't agree. I would say still more worried about this weekend, and not because of the opponent. I completely agree that I think this is a very good matchup for Tennessee because it's a very pitching-dominated team. In Notre Dame, one of its best strengths is its pitching depth, which doesn't show up quite as much in a best-of-3 game series, which that is why it's one of Tennessee's best strengths too, and that's why I never thought in a regional anybody could beat them. Tennessee just has too many arms. Even if they lose that game to Georgia Tech on Sunday, I would have been shocked if they didn't come back and win on Monday. You saw once Georgia Tech got to its bullpen on that Sunday game, it was a matter of time before Tennessee broke things open. So on that front, that's kind of how I feel regional versus super regional. But no, I think you're right. I think it's a good matchup for Tennessee for a team that's very pitching dominant in Notre Dame at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. I think Tennessee's offense is just so good that nobody at this time of year is going to hold them to less than 5 or 6 runs. And I think Tennessee's pitching is good enough mixed with an offense that doesn't have a ton of power, that doesn't have a ton to really hang its hat on. I don't think they're going to be able to hang around. And I'm with Ethan. I think Tennessee, probably competitive games. I don't expect Tennessee to come out here and blow them out in any of the games, but I do think Tennessee takes care of business in 2 and punches its ticket to go back to Omaha.
Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised. I guess it'd just be more of a bummer if it ended here. The regionals can get weird, and Campbell obviously just playing the offense where it's like, man, the bats went cold and we played 2 hot bat teams and that was it. Like hey, bad luck. This would just be more of a surprise where I think a lot more has to go right for Notre Dame to win this, and Tennessee can just I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I mean, we'll have to see ultimately what happens here, but I think we're in good shape. And I also think it's probably good that Dollander had that weekend that he had last week for this series, because I think the odds of him going back-to-back with bad starts is pretty slim to none. So Blade was obviously great on Friday last week, but I think the pitching will be pretty identical, and like Ryan alluded to, it's just our depth in the bullpen is just second to none, and being able to count on Will or Kirby or whoever, like I think it's not going to happen. If Tennessee goes down this postseason, I don't think it will be here. It will be later on and in Omaha potentially, but we'll see. Omaha is just the goal. The goal should really just be, we've built the Death Star in a little bit of ways, and look, part of that is Dan Ravel's fault. People forget. Who tweeted today. And look, so for folks that do not already know, Tennessee gets a big-time recruit big-time player from Kansas, who is Hawaiian. How do you pronounce his name, Ryan? Do you know?
Maui Ahuna.
Okay. And really good player, future MLB guy. He'll be able to jump in right away. He's probably only going to be at Tennessee for 1 year. But I am curious how the fit works because it seems like Lawson and Ortega are both planning to come back. But maybe that's a good thing because one of the things that drove every Tennessee fan mad this past weekend was Lawson at short. So maybe moving him to third when trade departs, or I don't know how Vitello will reshuffle the infield if necessary. We don't even know. Like Lawson might go, Ortega might go. We'll see. Still a lot of time for that. But there was he used a term which is wrong and crappy and gross, and we won't even use it on this podcast. But he did that, and he also just threw out the notion that Tennessee bought. And NIL was the reason that this man transferred to the University of Tennessee. Why? It reminds me of the Nico stuff, and it reminds me of just this thing where it's like, are we just throwing out the offensive part of it? Are we throwing out that the man transferred to the number 1 baseball team in the country? Do you think that might have been part of it? Is he just saw like how this offense collectively is just mashing and berating people? Do you think maybe he wanted to be on another national title contender next year? Do you think that might be a pull to go join the number 1 team with a fun manager, a player-friendly manager, and a stadium and a group of fans that really care and really pack this thing up? And yeah, I'm sure NIL was okay. But to discount and to just put it at just this is the reason that this player chose this school, be better. This is not reality, and it's not fair to that kid. It's not fair to what Vitello has built at Tennessee, and it's just it just sucks, man. I saw that and I was like, good. It's Friday afternoon. I'm not getting mad at a Darren Ravel tweet, but good God,
maybe Darren Ravel's first ever tweet about college baseball too, which makes it all the more incredible.
I don't know, Ryan. Do you have a take on this?
Not really. I mean, I don't think it's accurate. It's just kind of what is Darren Ravel doing when I saw it. And like you said, it's playing for Tony Vitello and the freedom that he gives his players at a ballpark that could not be more hitter friendly.
Yep.
For the number 1 team in the country, who's going to return its whole entire pitching rotation that also got invited to USA Baseball's collegiate summer circuit. That's a pretty good selling point. There's not a whole lot else that needs to go on. So that's kind of my take. And it's who cares about Darren Ravel? Just don't even give him the attention.
It's just that's just an attention. It's just so silly. But we're gonna see this over and over again. Where if someone signs and if someone hears, oh, there was NIL involved, it's like, well, yeah, that's part of the process now. Like that's just part of the game, and that's something that Tennessee has an advantage on. But it's also like, this man is not coming to Tennessee if Tennessee has not built the Death Star in baseball this year. Like those two, to discount that and just to pretend that this team is not who they are on the field and what Vitello has done and just all the other variables, and to simplify it that way, I think is just it's the opposite of Galaxy Brain. Maybe it's the full version of that Galaxy Brain. I don't know, but whatever it is, don't do it. What do you think, Ethan?
I've been waiting to say this since you started talking about it. It's exactly what Ryan said. The dude is just asking for attention. Exhibit A. Let me. So on the tweet,
he's pulling up the receipts.
On the tweet, he turned off replies.
Yes.
Specifically turned off replies, and then he sent out another tweet about 20 minutes later. I'll read it verbatim. It says, "To the state of Tennessee, my replies are turned off because of an issue I've had with crypto bots, which I've been working on with Twitter for a month. It's not because I'm scared of what you are going to say. I've been interacting on Twitter since some of you were in preschool." He says that with his tweet on. So obviously the CryptoBot thing is not what he was going for. My man is fishing for attention.
Oh my goodness.
Twitter tough guy, Darren Ravel. He's back.
Big tough guy. It's incredible. It's amazing content.
And Tennessee's not the hornet's nest you want to shake up. That's just not the one. And then the Notre Dame kid this week, that poor kid who said, I would be scared of us. What did he say? Something along those lines. What are you doing?
Worried, I think, was the word he used.
He says if I were them, I'd be scared. It's like,
what's good?
Did you see what Jordan Beck was doing on rounding the bases? Like, do you really want that? Why do you want that?
Well, I don't know if defending him is the right word,
Yeah.
but who cares? It's a super regional weekend. Tennessee does not need any extra motivation.
They'll take it, though.
Yeah, I mean, they will. They will absolutely take it. But is it going to feel any better, any worse for him that he gave him that motivation if Tennessee beats them this weekend?
I mean, if they beat him bad, the announcers are going to talk about that one for a little bit. It's going to be my guess. If Tennessee's up 10-0 in the 7th, like in game 1, I think that might come up.
Something else too that I feel is underrated is Notre Dame is a pitching heavy team, so you know his pitcher's got to be like, dude, shut up.
That's a great point.
Let me do my job over here. I'm the one chance we got here. Like, but you're not. And given Ryan Cole is kind of their star guy, he's the one that said it. But at the same time, my man, you gotta read the room a little bit. I'm
gonna guess the manager pulled him inside for a couple minutes, and hey, man, I'm gonna need you not to do that. Do you think we see Ben Joyce this weekend?
It's a good question. I think a lot of it depends on how the starting pitching is, and if the game goes if it goes 3 games or 2. I think if it goes 3 games and you have a start, one of the 3 starts is a shorter one, like we saw from Chase Dollander or like we saw from Drew Beam, then yeah, I do think we see him. But if you get 6 innings from Blade Tidwell tonight and 7 innings from Chase Dollander on Saturday, and Tennessee takes care of business in 2 games, then I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see him.
On Sunday, though, who would you guess? If we're in a Sunday situation, Ethan, who do you think starts Sunday?
It makes a lot of sense to say Drew Beam again. I would think, because you think Chase Burns probably goes at some point in game 2 if things get dire enough to necessitate a game 3. But I'm not really sure. It's kind of speculation at this point. I would just say Beam because that's what Vitello did last time. But obviously, baseball is a game of change, and different things will happen this weekend.
I would just say Burns, and like we saw with Kirby and Mabry, like, man, I might go to them first, and then if you really have to do it, I don't know. I would save Chase, and it seems like he's just not as comfortable in the bullpen as he is as a starter. So I don't know. I think his stuff's better. I think that's asking a lot for Drew Beam in a do or die situation on that Sunday. I don't know if I want him anywhere near that.
I would go with Burns. I mean, if that would be my pick, but I almost thinking about what they're going to do, I almost think it's one of those things where if they win game 1, I think they'll be aggressive using, because to me, Camden Sewell is as good as anybody they have in the pitching staff besides Chase Dollander. I think if they win game 1, I think they may be aggressive using him, using Sewell in game 2, if needed, going Dollander to Sewell to try to take you to the finish line. They lose tonight, they lose game 1. I bet they save Camden Sewell and have him available to start in that Sunday game. Maybe if they fall behind again in game 2, but I think there's just a really good comfort level there with Camden Sewell, and to give the ball to a senior who doesn't have a ton of starting experience, but when you look at his starting experience, it's all in the postseason. Great against Florida in the semifinals of the SEC tournament 2 years ago. Great in a championship game against Florida, and you want to go all the way back to his freshman year. He was great in an elimination game against Liberty in the 2019 NCAA tournament in that Chapel Hill regional. I think there's the floor for what Sewell is going to give you, I think, is way higher than anybody else on Sunday, and I think that would be a really good security blanket for Tennessee if they were to fall behind and have to go to a game 3.
There you go. Ethan, you have a new job. You're over there off the hook, as the kids say.
As the kids say.
Yeah. So how is that going? Excited?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. First week was I'm tired, I'll be honest, but it's a lot of fun. It's nice to be writing about Tennessee sports once again after being done with the Beacon, obviously for the summer, hopefully into football season. We'll just see where it goes. That's the plan right now, is I'll be here for a pretty decent while for the long haul writing about Tennessee sports, so I'm excited.
There you go. Congratulations again, sir. Proud of you.
Thank you.
Ryan, you're over there, Rocky Top Insider with Rick Butler. How is that going? Good stuff this week?
Everything going well. Yep, a lot of fun covering this baseball season and hoping we get a trip out to Nebraska, to Middle America.
There you go.
In the next week.
Will y'all both go if they make it that far?
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, we haven't gotten.
Well, I've talked to my dad. Like, I think I want to wait because, like, losing the first 2 games last year and just saying I don't want to go to Omaha and then just that kind of dismay over. Like, I think it's a long time too. It's just trying to do that whole week. I would rather wait. Like, if they make it the final is, I think, how we do it. It's like that might never happen again. Final or Final Four. Like, I don't know. I want to see some progress in Omaha first before we book the tickets.
Let me pose this to you, Chase.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, Ryan. Correct me if I am wildly off here. I believe Tennessee is on a crash course with Texas. Am I right?
They are matched up with them. They booted the ball around big time in the 8th inning today against East Carolina. So East Carolina took game 1 of that series. Tennessee, if they make it to Omaha, you are correct. That's who they would play in the first game, the winner of that East Carolina-Texas region.
Didn't even see that.
I don't want that at all.
Today. But yeah, no, that's why I say that. Is maybe you'd want that rematch thing. You have to go personally just to ensure that nothing bad happens.
I was gonna say, and we lost already this year too. Wait, that feels like forever ago in Houston.
Yeah,
the first loss of the season.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. It feels like. But we'll see. We still got some time to figure it out. Let's just get through the Super Regionals. Let's do that. There's a party on the grass right now. The watch party started over there on Tennessee. They brought that back. That's my living hell. I will not be partaking in any of that. No interest whatsoever. Shout out to the Everything School and a great university, but that's just not my deal. I need my notepad, and I'm just hanging out, and I can't do it. It's just not. I can't have someone walk up to me and be like, "Hey, what do you think about blank?" And just can't do it. It's not for me. I actually talked to my fiance about this the other day, where I was like, our relationship forever is just going to be, because she's super bubbly and pleasant and great. And for me in my personal life, generally speaking, it's just like, I don't want to do any of that. So I'm going to be the neighbor where they're going to come up to Samantha and be like, does Chase not like us? Or does he... And it's like, no, it's just, I do a podcast. I talk to a lot of people all day. And when I'm not on, I'm just, I just, when I'm not working, man. I don't really want to talk and socialize. It's just not my deal. I'm a pretty strong introvert. People misunderstand that, I think, a lot.
No, I think I caught onto that from our years of doing the podcast, and I think I'm a less extreme version of you in that front, but definitely don't blame you. You do a lot of talking to a lot of different people. It seems like it would get exhausting. Yeah,
I'm done. Like, once it's over, like, once you wrap up here, I'm going to get a break. I'm not going to talk again for several hours, and it's going to be great. I love not talking. It's a very weird thing to host a podcast, and also very much love never speaking or never being asked to speak. There you go. Ryan Schumpert, Ethan Stone. Go check out Rocky Top Insider and Off the Hook. Is it offthehooksports.com or Off the Hook?
offthehooksports.com. Yeah.
There you go. Go do that and check them out as they get ready for this football season and everything else. And read me at Sports Renaissance Man. And if you have to do it in order, remember sportsrenaissanceman.substack1. Number 2. No, I'm just kidding. Ryan, Ethan, always a pleasure. I will talk to y'all next week.
Sounds great.